Hi guys, please like, share and subscribe. And if you want full course for any actuarial subject, visit theactuarialguy.com or WhatsApp on this number. Thank you.
Hello and welcome, guys. So, today I'm going to be answering this question that I get almost every day from Indian actuarial aspirants, whether they should pick Institute of Actuaries of India or Institute and Faculty of Actuaries, United Kingdom. Now, historically, Institute and Faculty of Actuaries, United Kingdom has been the more popular option in India. One, because their pass percentages used to be higher, so the students used to feel more confident writing those exams because their probability of passing would have been higher. Secondly, Institute and Faculty of Actuaries is a legacy institution with international recognition. So the accreditation itself meant a lot outside India, and because Indian students have a lot of aspirations to move abroad, they would by default pick Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. And because of that, even today, there's a lot of misguidance which tends to bias people towards Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. Now, I think in 2025, Institute of Actuaries of India is not such a bad option because a couple of developments have taken place in the past couple of years. Uh, so let me list those developments first. Firstly, since 2020, Institute and Faculty of Actuaries has had unproctored online exams. So because of that, their reputation has sort of taken a hit. The credibility of the exams has gone down. Now, in 2025, they are moving to proctored exams, but their reputation, which was historically untarnished and really respected in the industry, that has definitely gone down. The second thing that has happened is that the pass percentages of Institute of Actuaries of India has significantly increased. So historically, around 2010, 11, 12, the pass percentages used to be as low as single digit numbers. I have seen exams with 0% pass percentage. There was a CT3 exam, I remember, in either 2012 or 13, there was a 0% pass percentage. That is not the case anymore. Institute of Actuaries of India now has started to give very good pass percentages, which are almost comparable with Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. Although IFoA still has slightly higher pass percentages, but the difference is not that much anymore, right? And the third thing that has happened is that over time the rate of pound has also gone up, rupee has depreciated, so these IFoA exams have become even more costlier, right? So now, based on data and based on a lot of conversations with actuaries who are working in India and outside, I am going to answer this question whether you should be picking Institute and Faculty of Actuaries or Institute of Actuaries of India. Okay, now let me discuss the advantages and disadvantages of both the institutes. Let's start with Institute of Actuaries of India. What are the advantages here? See, IA exams have always focused on first principles thinking. That is, even in advanced subjects like CS2 and CM2, they ask very basic statistics questions which make you think. They do not just focus on remembering the material and applying the material, but also your ability to think mathematically, which is very important whether you're working in traditional roles or non-traditional roles. So I find a lot of II questions to be very interesting. The second advantage is that the exam fee is significantly lower in case of II. We will get into the discussion of how different is it from IFoA, but generally, for students who have zero income, the fee is almost half. And if you are a working professional with an income of more than 9.5 lakhs, then the fee almost is one third for Institute of Actuaries of India, because then you would not be eligible for the reduced rate of IFoA. We'll talk about what the reduced rate of IFoA is soon, right? So I have a separate slide on fee, right? Then the next advantage of Institute of Actuaries of India is that they have MCQ exams. Now, I personally prefer the MCQ format a lot. A lot of people might say that it's not a good way to test judgment and understanding of candidates, but I think it's a very good platform. The only thing is that I would have preferred had there been some negative marking as well, because currently guesswork can also fetch student marks, but it is much more convenient as compared to the mathematical typing that the IFoA exams have, right? So I personally like MCQ exams a lot, and a lot of students prefer them. Then the next advantage is that it commands higher respect for its mathematically rigorous exams. So all IA exams, at least the initial ones, are very mathematically rigorous, as I discussed, or historically they have been so. So the respect for IA, at least in India, where these exams are understood well, is higher for a lot of employers as compared to IFoA. When you tell someone that you've passed all the exams from IA, they look at you with a different respect. So that advantage exists. Finally, this is a more recent advantage. II recently has introduced exam exemptions for chartered accountants, cost and management accountants, company secretaries, and graduates of some of the top institutions of the country, such as IIT, Bombay, Madras, ISI, IIM Mumbai, right? So, if you are coming with this background, then it would be really advantageous to go for IA, because you will be able to get some exam exemptions, and you'll have to write lesser number of exams. Okay, now let's talk about the advantages of IFoA. So IFoA is a legacy institution with international repute. It is written globally by students, and it has been so for decades, right? So while IFoA is based in UK, a lot of people from India take these exams. A lot of people from rest of South Asia, China, uh, almost any English speaking country, a lot of people would be taking IFoA exams, except for US and Canada, right, where the SOA and CAS exams are more popular. Uh, in a lot of parts of Africa, Oceania, Australia, IFoA exams are very, very popular, right? Singapore, Malaysia, all of these regions have IFoA as one of the popular choices, right? And that has been so for a very long period of time. And employers globally understand the IFoA exam pattern, and IFoA has its alumni network all across the globe, right? So that's a great advantage to have. The second advantage is that IFoA has historically had much higher pass percentages than II, although that gap has reduced now, but still the difference exists, and we'll get into more details of this in one of the slides, right? Uh, so, what are the disadvantages of II now? Now, one of the key problems with II is that there are errors in question papers and solutions a lot of time. These errors are not rampant, but their volume is significant enough uh, to trouble students, right? So every attempt in one of the exams, from CS1, CS2, CM1, CM2, couple of questions and answers would be wrong, right? And that is a problem more so in MCQ exams, because if you solve a question and you're not getting one of the options as the answer, you would assume you are the one who's not able to solve it. Uh, and then your rest of the paper can be affected by it, right? But if it's II's paper, there is a possibility that some questions can just be wrong, right? So that's a problem with II. I think that is very unprofessional on its part, and this is something that II needs to work on. The second disadvantage is that it is lesser known globally. So it's a recent institute. It's more focused on India. Uh, it's getting a global reach and recognition now that they are making partnerships and mutual recognition agreements with other institutions across the globe. But it's still far from there. And it's getting popular now because Indian actuaries are moving across the globe. So, along with them, they carry their advocacy of II and what II accreditation is. What also helps is that IAI's exams are very similar to IFoA, so they are very easy to understand for employers, right? Uh, One more disadvantage, although this is not a major one, it's a very minor disadvantage, which, and you may or may not look at it as a disadvantage, but this increases the qualification time by at least 2-3 months. That is, IAI has an entrance exam, which is called as Actuarial Common Entrance Test, ACET. So that is something you have to pass in order to start writing the IAI exams. Now, ACET is a very easy exam, so that is not a significant hurdle, but it still exists, and that can be considered as a disadvantage. Now, let's talk about the disadvantages of IFoA, and there are a couple of them. The first one is that recently, since 2020, IFoA has had unproctored exam. So a lot of students cheated in these exams. Coaching institutes also helped them cheat. People used to obtain their exam papers earlier. They used to collude with other students. They used to engage in plagiarism, that is copying material without stating that they have used some source or reference, right? So there were a lot of exam malpractices that students undertook, and because of that, there is a mindset that has come in now, and correctly so, that IFoA exams had become very easy to pass in this duration from 2020 to 2025. For all practical purposes, you could make someone else sit and write exam for you, right? And now employers don't look at IFoA candidates uh, without skepticism. They would be skeptical. They would ask you, when have you passed these IFoA exams? And if you say you've passed any exam between 2020 to 2024, they would look at you with skepticism. So that is the level of loss of credibility that has happened. Although now that they have restored proctored exams, there is a strong hope that things will turn around. The second disadvantage is that there is mathematical typing involved. Now, one can always argue that you will have to type for most of your work at your workplace, but still, that won't be math typing, and it's slightly inconvenient for a lot of people to type math on Microsoft Word, right? So that is definitely a downside. Now, the third disadvantage is that these exams are significantly costly as compared with IAI. As I already told you, they are double or triple the amount of money. They get even costlier if you are a working professional making more than 9.5 lakhs rupees per annum, because in that case, you would not even be eligible for IFoA's reduced rate, right? Uh, Now, let's talk about what is the exact cost of becoming an actuary from IA and IFoA, and let's just try to compare those numbers, right? So, in order to qualify as an associate actuary for IA, and this is just the exam and the material fees that I am talking about. Under IA, it is compulsory to buy the study material, and I have assumed that you would buy the soft copy material, which is cheaper, right? Individual prices for study material and exam fee are given here, right? So, in order to qualify as an associate, you would need to spend 1,31,000 rupees. When you go for IFoA, even if you are eligible for reduced rate, right, and the condition for reduced rate is that your annual income, your personal annual income, not your family's, right, not what your parents make, but your personal annual income, if it is more than 9.5 lakh rupees per annum, right, that is at the current conversion rate, then you are not eligible for the reduced rate. Then you have to write full rate. So as I mentioned, even if you are eligible for reduced rate, it costs double to become an IFoA fellow as compared with an II fellowship. To become a fellow, and I mentioned the fee including associateship here, the fee again is much higher in case of IFoA, right? Now, one thing you must note is that some of these fees will be paid by your employer. So you should keep that in mind. But even if you consider the initial exam fee, it's much higher in case of IFoA as compared to IAI. So for example, let's consider an exam like CS1, and let's say you buy the soft copy material only, because you can always print out the soft copy. So no point of buying the hard copy. So the exam would cost you 11,500 rupees. In case of IFoA, it's 22,000, straight double, right? CS2, 13,000, 22,164, right? So it's quite expensive, right? CB1, CB2, it would just cost you 8,000 rupees, but 16,000 rupees from IFoA. So it's practically just the double of what you pay to IA, you pay to IFoA at reduced rate. If you go for full rate, CS1, CS2, CM1, CM2, 34,354 rupees, right? So this is very high, right? So that's the problem with IFoA. An important thing to note here is that IFoA doesn't make it mandatory for you to buy the material, so you can arrange it from anywhere. It's very easily available. And if you enroll for coaching, you would probably get the material, right? Also, one important thing to note is that II doesn't require you to buy the material again if you have bought it once. So if you take 2 attempts to pass an exam, the second time you will only have to pay the exam fee. But just in case, let's say you are not able to pass an IFO exam, you will have to pay the full fee again, reduced rate or full rate, whichever one applies to you, right? So that's a problem with IFoA. Now, as you would see, the annual membership fee is also much higher in case of IFoA. Both reduced rate and full rate are significantly higher. Full rate fee is crazy. It's just so much money, right? And in case of II, it's fairly reasonable, right? So this is one of the important reasons why you might want to pick II over IFoA. If you have financial constraints, or even if you just care about money, I would say just go for II, right? We will get into the uh, decision tree of how to decide between the two, but based on this slide, I can definitely tell you that II is preferred, right? Now let's talk about the pass percentages where IFoA beats II. So now what I've done is I've taken the pass percentages for the recent 2 attempts of IFoA and II. And one thing you would notice here is that in each of the rows, what I've done is, if you just see the first 4 columns, right, where the pass percentages are there, the highest 2, right, out of these 4 attempts that are listed, so IFoA April 24, September 24, and II May 24 and November 24, the highest 2 have marked in green and the lowest 2 have marked in red, right? So as you would see, these greens are concentrated on IFoA side, right? So higher pass percentages are here, and the reds are concentrated on II's side. But if you see that for the initial exams in November 24, II didn't do that badly. In fact, some of these II pass percentages were significantly higher as compared to the IFoA pass percentages, right? Now, in this fifth column, what I did was I took the average of II and IFoA and took a difference, right? So, one thing you would note that at least in the initial exams, at some places II is doing better than IFoA. So it's II minus IFoA, meaning that if it's positive, II had a higher pass percentage, right? So II is doing better than IFoA in CB1 and CM2 if you take the average of last 2 attempts, right? And where it's doing worse in terms of a pass percentage, the difference is not that much, right, in the initial exams. Although you see that in the later exams, IFoA consistently does better, only with some exceptions. So that's the thing. So initial exams, they seem to be very close to each other. There's not much of a difference, but with later exams, IFoA has higher pass percentages, right? Now, I personally do not definitely favor higher pass percentages because, as I told you, IFoA's credibility is already under question. So you should not, go for something that has lost credibility and has delivered higher pass percentage. I am pretty sure that some of these percentages are going to fall in the coming attempt once these exams become closed book and proctored, right? So that will definitely affect these things. And also, if you absolutely see II's pass percentages, except for a few exams like SP9 and SA4, most of them seem to be all right, right? So that's what I would tell you based on this, right? Now, earlier, one of the arguments for IFoA used to be that if you want to move abroad, if you want to move out of India for work, you should definitely pick IFoA, right? But I would say in 2025, it makes sense to pick II even if you want to move abroad. Why is that? Okay. The first reason is that there is a mutual recognition agreement between II and IFoA. So if you become a fellow of II, you can apply to become the fellow of IFoA without having to pass any exam. You just have to pay some fee, which most employers sponsor, right? And you would directly become a fellow of IFoA. So all of that international recognition, if you need it, if you also want to become a fellow of IFoA, you can directly do that, right? Second, so this is once you qualify. But what if you want to move abroad before qualification, before you complete your fellowship? So see, the thing is that it's anyway very difficult to get visa sponsorship before you qualify. It's very difficult to move abroad as an actuary until and unless you are a fellow. Reason is that governments do not allow underqualified professionals to come in. They would tell the employers to find someone with equivalent qualifications in their own country. Fellow is a significant enough qualification that the employer can justify to the government that, look, this person I am sponsoring, I want to get them in because such talent is not available locally, right? So it's much easier to move abroad as a fellow rather than trying pre-qualification. It's very rare to be able to move pre-qualification, and that is only possible if you are working with an MNC and you get an international transfer internally, right? So that's the thing. So anyway, you won't be able to move abroad pre-qualification, and post-qualification, it doesn't make a difference. IA or IFoA, you can use the mutual recognition agreement to become an IFoA fellow even if you are an IA fellow. Finally, this third point is based on my recent conversations with some fellows who are working abroad. Lot of employers are looking down on IFoA fellows who have passed between 2020 and 2024 because of how the exams were conducted, and because there is a suspicion that most people who passed from 2020 to 2024 were involved in some sort of malpractice. Although everyone wouldn't be, I am sure that a majority passed their exams very honestly. But because the exams got a bad repute, the fellowship itself is sort of under question. One of my old students was telling me that when they interviewed with an employer abroad, and this was a person with Indian origin, they asked them, when did you pass the exam? And when they said a year which was between 2020 to 2024, they smirked and rejected them after that, right? Now, of course, there might be other reasons for rejection, but that's what this student of mine felt. Someone else who is working in a non-traditional sector, in the financial sector as an actuary, also told me a very similar story, that everyone there is sort of critical of, or skeptical of the IFoA fellowship, right? So yeah, that repute of IFoA, which people talk about, that if you want to move abroad, have an IFoA fellowship, I would say that is not true anymore, right? That's being looked down upon, and IAI still holds better credibility than IFoA in a lot of these spaces. This is not universally true, but anecdotally this is what I have been hearing. This will change obviously once IFoA introduces proctored exams, but this is the scenario as of now. Now finally, which one should you pick? I made a decision tree based on your situation, and in most situations you should pick IA. So the first one is if you are a chartered accountant, company secretary, cost and management accountant, or a graduate from IIT Madras, Bombay, IIM Mumbai, ISI. Any of these if you have, right? I would say pick IA because you have exemptions in couple of exams. I will just attach the circular which outlines what is the exemptions that you're getting. So if you have any of these credentials, I would say go for IA because you will have to write lesser number of exams. Second, if your personal annual income is greater than 8,700 pounds, that is 9,50,000 rupees, and your employer is not willing to pay for the exam, let's say you are in a non-actuarial job, right? So your employer won't pay for the exam, right? In that case, I would definitely recommend go for IA because you wouldn't want to pay triple the fee, right? If you're not eligible for reduced rate, right? And your employer is not paying for the exams, I would say straight away go for IA because the fee difference is too much. As I showed you, the fee for IFoA is 3 times the fee of IA. So there's no point, right? Now let's come to the other cases, right? If these two cases don't apply to you, then if you are passionate about first principles thinking and prefer MCQ exams, then I would say go for IA. If you are still very stubborn about higher pass percentages and you're okay with mathematical typing, then go for IFoA exams. Okay, so that is the formula that you should follow, and that's how you should decide. In 3 out of 4 scenarios here, you should go for IA, right? So that is what I am strongly recommending now. Only in cases where uh, you're eligible for reduced rate, you really want the high pass percentage, and you can live with the mathematical typing, go for IFoA. Okay, thank you.